I watched a movie recently that was made about immigrants coming across the southern border, and Americans that own property down there were in danger because of the drug cartel uh, and the murderers and rapists that come across the border, however many of them there are. And the head of the drug cartel was telling another man that the Americans didn't fight back anymore. They were easy to murder and kill. And the other guy asked him, why? What's up? And he said, everybody in the world wants what the Americans have. But the Americans feel guilty having it. So they don't resist when people come and kill them to take it from them. And that really got me to thinking. The reason everybody in the world wants what America has is because America has been blessed for so long, built upon a Judeo-Christian foundation, which recognizes and realizes that things come by the blessing of the Lord. That the blessing isn't lifted up, but the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the Judeo-Christian God, gives it because of inheritance, mercy, grace, blessing. It's just the grace of God. Well, that's why America has prospered and led the world for the last 100 years or so. But in the last 40 to 50 years, the liberal left, the anti-God, whatever it might be, or they may be, no God, out of school, out of books, even out of the church. Like it's okay for everybody just believing whatever they want to believe. All gods are the same. But that's not what the Judeo-Christian Bible says. So the point I'm trying to make here is once America put God out and rejects God and is forced by government to, there is no God, separation of church and state, just take God out of the picture. People, if you do that, you forget where your blessings come from. And in America, in that case, if you look at all the blessings, they're not justified. Because we're no better than anybody else. We got them because our God is God. We serve the God of heaven. America has. But since God has been put out, there is a feeling guilty for everything we have. Because we really don't know where it came from. And then we buy up into all the politically correct and the lies. Well, you don't deserve this. You stole this. Everybody else ought to have this too. But that's not the teaching of the Judeo-Christian Bible. We get what we get by the mercy, grace, the love of God, just like Jesus Christ. We didn't deserve it. We got the blessing, the love of God. We believed it. We received it. So just like the police in America right now, one of the things they're going through, Romans 13 says police are ministers of God just like the preacher. And they are a rewarder of the good doer and an avenger on the evildoer. Judeo-Christian people in this nation, as I've said, have been raised for decades and decades that all authority is of God. You do not resist authority. And the police officer is a minister of God. He gets his authority from God. And even police knew that. But you got to understand, on the level to where, like individuals, they forgot where their blessings have come from because God has been ruled out, so therefore they feel guilty, and they allow themselves to be run over by the to kill, steal, and destroy, the devil, the thief. Even the police now, the government and wicked agencies have said separation of police and God. So for 3 decades now at least, get God out of the police. God has nothing to do with it. And so now police are being attacked and killed by the lawless, and they're getting away with it because the police cannot justify why they have the authority to do what they do to stop these people, or are any better than the people they're stopping. Because God has been ruled out. It would only be by the police in America going back to, wait a minute, wait. This is what God says in Romans 13 about the police in America, a Christian country, a Jewish nation. Our authority comes from God. And whether you like it or not, you deal with God. There's in Texas, one of the cities, the sheriff is fighting the federal government. We will not take off the back of our cars, "In God we trust." If America does not get back to that, the show is over. The nation is falling. Rebellion is ruling. The only hope America has is her God, that she has willingly and unwillingly turned her back on the people of this nation and its institutions. And one last thing. I watched some things on Stalin lately. Stalin, Marx, Trotsky. It's telling the whole story of America. It's showing you how these institutions work that do what they do, these groups of people, to divide and conquer and destroy the nation. And if you'll watch some of this stuff on Stalin, you'll understand how these people are operating. It is a known fact that the Clintons and Obama and many others up there, they majored in Trotsky. One of the rebellious hellraisers was Stalin and Marx that killed millions of people. If we don't get back to God, if we don't find our historical moral roots, that everything we have and everything we are and all the blessings come from the God of the Jews, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and we were a blessed nation, we're going to lose our nation. Obama came in first thing right out of the chute saying we are not a Christian nation anymore, because even those demons and devils understand that they have to get rid of the true religion and what is right and the real God, because as long as the people have that in their heart, they can't control them, they can't manipulate them and get them to do wrong. So today's, you know what, you watch this thing where this girl's been pulled out of this chair in that school in South Carolina. It's real interesting. South Carolina is probably the most religious state in the union, right with Texas, you know, the Bible Belt. All these great evangelists have come out of there because the Bible says wherever good is, evil is present, or wherever evil is, grace abounds. God's grace abounds. God is there in control. Help me, Jesus. Help me, Jesus. Just a minute. Just a minute. Why is it that South Carolina, all this hell raising South Carolina, and I know maybe back to where we're going, when you watch the police officer, because I'm a man, a football player, a fighter, as a kid, grown up into a man, and I understand wrestling and fighting and playing, any man that's really a man, black or white, realizes that he used speed and quickness more than he did strength. He didn't need no strength on that woman. He took care of business and did the best thing he could do and try not to harm that young woman, being full of that rebellion and fighting against police. But ruling God out of this equation, he has no authority to do that. And what's happening is America is turning where the lawbreakers are demanding the way the laws be. And that is madness. But that's what I was telling you about Stalin and Trotsky and Marx. You watch that overthrow, the killing of millions in Russia, what went down. You'll understand the way these people are thinking and why they're doing this just the way they're doing it. We've got to get back to God. And those of us who know God, we need to stand up and be bold now, just like those Hebrew boys. Hey, we're not bowing, O king, to your image, bowing down to you. Our fathers taught us who our God is what is right. We're not bound to man, we'll bow to God. We'll go to the furnace and die first. Well, Judeo-Christian men and women, they don't bow to the politically correct. They bow to what is right. And they know that Bible says police are ministers of God. So the best thing you can do is pass that around. You can support them and remind the police, you got your authority from God. The only way they can take your authority is unless you give it to them. And if you don't reject your God, they can't take your authority. And that's exactly what's happening in America now. All of our institutions are being overthrown because we've rejected our God and sat down and given him away. And the only way to restore sanity, that this nation does not fall, is that. If this nation falls, even the ones who make it fall, the rebellious who are doing this, black and white and blue and green and red, they don't understand what's coming. The Bible teaches when you reject authority, you're going to get a tougher authority. ISIS and all the enemies are on the outskirts of this nation, and they're going to come in, they're going to Sharia law, they're going to slaughter blacks and whites and everybody that does not bow. The Quran, Islam, it's all about submit. You will submit or die. Choose Jesus today, the God of love, or choose Islam, the sword of death. Jesus is Lord.